Picture a massive stone cliff, standing proud and unyielding for thousands of years. It looks invincible, permanent, unmovable. Now picture water, soft and formless, flowing gently against that stone. Day after day, year after year, century after century. The stone doesn't even notice at first, thinks it's winning. But then one day, without warning, without violence, without force, that stone crumbles. The water didn't fight. It didn't push. It didn't struggle. It simply flowed. And in its softness, it conquered what hardness could never touch. What if I told you that you've been living your entire life like that stone? When you were meant to, there's an ancient teaching that most people hear but never truly understand. It comes from a man named Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher who lived over 2,000 years ago. He wrote about something called the Tao, which simply means the way. But within this teaching lies one of the most profound truths about life, about struggle, about success, and about power. He said that the softest thing in the world can overcome the hardest. He pointed to water as the greatest teacher we'll ever have. And yet, here we are, thousands of years later, still trying to force our way through life. Still believing that harder is better. That more effort means more results. That if we just push hard enough, fight long enough, resist strong enough, we'll finally break through. We've been taught to be the stone, to stand firm, to never bend, to show no weakness. We've been told that softness is fragility, that flexibility is surrender, that going with the flow means giving up. And so we harden ourselves. We build walls. We clench our fists. We tighten our jaws. We resist everything that doesn't go our way, and we wonder why we're exhausted. We wonder why, despite all our effort, we keep hitting the same walls. We wonder why life feels like an endless battle. But what if everything we've been taught about strength is backwards? Oh, be the water. Lao Tzu watched water, and he saw something that most people miss. He saw that water doesn't fight the rock. When water encounters a boulder in its path, it doesn't try to move it. It doesn't slam against it repeatedly until it breaks itself. Water does something much more intelligent. It goes around. It finds the cracks. It seeps in slowly. It freezes and expands. It flows and erodes. And eventually, without force, without struggle, that immovable rock becomes sand. This is Wu Wei, effortless action. Not inaction, but action that doesn't force. Action that aligns with the natural flow of things rather than resisting it. Think about your own life for a moment. Think about all the times you've pushed and pushed against something that wouldn't move. A relationship that was falling apart, so you tried harder to fix it. A job that was draining your soul, so you worked longer hours to prove yourself. A version of yourself you desperately wanted to become, so you forced discipline and willpower until you burned out. You were trying to be the hammer, striking again and again, when you needed to be the water, finding another way. We associate effort with virtue. We think that if something isn't painful, we must not be doing it right. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. We glorify the grind, the hustle, the relentless pursuit. And yes, there's value in dedication and persistence, but there's a difference between flowing with strength and forcing with rigidity. Water is soft, yet it carved the Grand Canyon. Water is gentle, yet it can destroy entire cities in a flood. Water is formless, yet it takes the shape of whatever contains it without losing its essence. This is the paradox that Lao Tzu understood. True strength isn't about hardness. It's about adaptability. It's about knowing when to move forward and when to move around. It's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Wu Wei doesn't mean you stop caring or stop trying. It means you stop forcing outcomes. You plant the seed, you water it, but you don't stand over it pulling it from the ground to make it grow faster. You trust the process. You trust the timing. You trust that there's an intelligence in the universe far greater than your need to control everything. When you fight against a current, you exhaust yourself and stay in the same place. When you relax and flow with it, you move forward with far less effort. This applies to everything. To your career, to your relationships, to your personal growth. How many times have you tried to force someone to understand you, only to create more distance? How many times have you tried to control a situation, only to watch it spiral further out of control. How many times have you resisted change only to suffer more because of that resistance? The stone thinks it's strong because it stands firm. But standing firm in the face of everything is not strength. It's stubbornness. It's fear disguised as resilience. The stone cannot adapt, and so time destroys it. Water adapts to everything, and so time makes it more powerful. Here's what most people don't understand about Wu Wei. It's not passivity. It's not giving up. It's not letting life push you around like a leaf in the wind. Wu Wei is strategic surrender. It's the wisdom to know what you can change and what you cannot. It's the intelligence to know when effort is productive and when it's self-destructive. It's the courage to let go of outcomes while still taking inspired action. Think about a martial artist. A master doesn't meet force with force. When someone punches, the master doesn't stand there and absorb the blow with pure muscle. They move. They redirect. They use the opponent's energy against them. This is water. This is Wu Wei. Now apply this to your daily life. You have a goal, a dream, something you're working toward. The hard way is to bulldoze through every obstacle with sheer force. The way of water is to move with awareness. To recognize when a door is closed and look for the window. To understand that sometimes the path to your goal isn't a straight line but a river that bends and curves and even seems to go backwards before it reaches the ocean. You cannot control the river's path, but you can choose to flow with it or exhaust yourself fighting it. Every single moment of your life is presenting you with this choice. And here's the beautiful truth that Lao Tzu knew. When you stop forcing, when you stop resisting, when you allow yourself to be soft and flexible and fluid, life starts working with you instead of against you. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have forced into existence. Solutions arise that you couldn't have thought your way into. Doors open that you didn't even know were there. This isn't magic. This is alignment. This is what happens when you stop living in constant friction with reality and start dancing with it instead. The universe is always moving, always flowing, always changing. When you harden yourself against that flow, you create suffering. When you soften into it, you create grace. But softness requires trust. And trust requires letting go of the illusion of control. This is where most people fail. We'd rather be in control and miserable than surrender and peaceful. We'd rather know exactly what's going to happen, even if it's painful, than step into uncertainty with faith. We clutch so tightly to our plans, our expectations, our ideas of how things should be, that we strangle the very outcomes we're hoping for. Water teaches us that the tightest grip holds nothing, but the open hand can hold everything. When you open your hand, when you release your death grip on life, you're not losing power. You're gaining it, because now you're free to move, to adapt, to respond, to flow. So here's the moment of truth. The moment where everything shifts. You've been taught your entire life that you need to be harder, stronger, tougher, more resilient. You've been taught to build thicker walls, to push through pain, to never show weakness. And maybe that's gotten you somewhere. Maybe you've achieved things. Maybe you've proven yourself. But I want you to ask yourself something honestly. At what cost? How much of yourself have you lost trying to be invincible? How much joy have you sacrificed trying to be perfect? How much peace have you traded for control? How many moments have passed you by because you were too busy forcing the next one to happen? What if the breakthrough you've been fighting for only comes when you stop fighting? What if the love you've been chasing only arrives when you stop chasing? What if the version of yourself you're trying to become is actually born in the moments you stop trying so hard and simply allow? This is the realization that changes everything. Strength isn't about how much you can endure. It's about how gracefully you can adapt. Power isn't about force. It's about flow. Success isn't about control. It's about alignment. And peace isn't something you achieve by fighting for it. It's something you experience by releasing the fight. Lao Tzu wrote, "The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. Look at the trees in a storm. The rigid oak stands tall and proud, refusing to bend. And when the storm is strong enough, it snaps. But the willow, the bamboo, they bend with the wind. They survive what the oak cannot. Not because they're weaker, because they're wiser. You have spent so long trying to be the oak, and life keeps sending storms. Maybe it's time to learn from the willow. Maybe it's time to bend. Maybe it's time to flow. Maybe it's time to trust that softness is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. So what does this mean for you right now in your actual life? It means stop forcing the doors that won't open and start noticing the ones that are. It means stop fighting against your natural rhythm trying to fit someone else's definition of productivity. It means stop hardening your heart to protect yourself from pain, because that same hardness keeps out love, joy, and connection. It means when you encounter resistance, get curious instead of combative. Ask yourself, is this obstacle here to stop me or redirect me? Is this challenge here to break me or shape me? Am I flowing around it or am I repeatedly slamming into it expecting a different result? Be like water. When you're poured into a cup, become the cup. When you're poured into a bottle, become the bottle. When you're poured into an ocean, become the ocean. This doesn't mean you have no identity. It means your identity isn't rigid. You don't have to be who you were yesterday. You don't have to defend an old version of yourself that no longer serves you. You can change shape and still be yourself. You can adapt and still have integrity. You can surrender outcomes and still have purpose. Wu Wei is not about doing nothing. It's about doing what's natural. It's about aligned action instead of forced action. It's about moving with life instead of against it. And here's what happens when you truly embody this. Life gets easier. Not because your circumstances change overnight, but because your relationship with your circumstances transforms completely. You stop seeing everything as a battle to win. You start seeing everything as a dance to join. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control what was never yours to control. You start directing your energy toward what actually matters, what actually moves, what actually flows. The relief you'll feel when you finally put down the weight of forcing everything to go your way is indescribable. It's like you've been holding your breath for years and you finally exhale. Lao Tzu's wisdom wasn't just philosophy. It was practical instruction for how to live without destroying yourself in the process. He looked at water and saw the blueprint for a life well lived. Soft enough to adapt, strong enough to transform, patient enough to wait, powerful enough to reshape mountains. You don't need to be harder than you already are. You don't need to force more than you already have. You don't need to control more than you already try to. What you need is to soften, to trust, to flow, to remember that the most powerful force on this planet doesn't fight its way through obstacles. It finds another way. It waits. It adapts. Persists without resistance. It wins without war. So let this be your permission. Permission to stop exhausting yourself. Permission to release your grip. Permission to bend instead of break. Permission to trust the timing of your life. Permission to be soft in a world that demands hardness. Because the truth that Lao Tzu knew, the truth that water demonstrates every single day, is this: softness does not lose to hardness. Not ever. Not in the end. The stone always becomes sand. And the water always finds its way to the ocean. Be the water. Trust the flow. And watch as life begins to move with you instead of against you.